sure. Meg, can you confirm that was Shamson's question, or did I make a mistake with the name? I still didn't get it. Okay, well, we have a question about, since there's no trees or bushes in the Mara, what the animals use to scent mark, or at least there's not many. Oh, they still use the trees and the bushes, just like they would in South Africa, and they also scent mark. I've seen them scent marking termite mounds as well. There's enough out here for them to scent mark without having to worry that their scent is going to disappear. Just looking at these impala up ahead and wondering if perhaps she's looking at the impala up ahead, wherever she is. And these ridges help to keep us searching. And they'll also, different animals scent mark in different ways. The male lions will scent mark bushes, but they'll also scrape their feet in their urine. So will rhinoceros as well, so that they walk their scent from place to place wherever they go. Right, if you were a cheetah and a lion came through, where would you go? Probably not far. I hope not too far. Oh, we're going up a hill. Just concentrating on not missing her. But the height advantage may well be quite a good thing. The nice thing about after all this rain, and now that it's dry, it means that the flies are out in full force. Biting flies. Okay, let us... Oh, this road goes right up to the top of this hill. I doubt she's all the way up here, though. You never know. If she is, she's going to be hard to find. It's so bright. Never going to hear the end of it. Alright, well, I'm going to sit and try and find our cheetah somewhere here in this network of valleys. Let's go across to Brent, who's already succeeded with his.
Well, as I said, our main mission for the next few days out here is going to be spending time with the gorgeous Malika and her young males. So there we go. There's one of the young boys. He's the one I spotted. I just managed to spot his head from quite a distance away, from up on the crest, as he rolled over, and the other two using the tiniest bush possible for shade. There we go. And they are still digesting that sub-adult wildebeest that they ate last night. They have moved maybe 100 meters from where we left them last night, and I don't think they're going to move too far today either. They might hunt again this evening, more than likely tomorrow morning. Those are big, big bellies. Now, I heard that another female cheetah and her cub, Miale, were not too far from here. So just wanted to come check in with Malika and co, but just now I think we're going to head off towards where Miale was seen last night to see if we can find her. And of course there's that mystery male that has been evading me. I will find him at some point. Now, a lot of the migration have moved off towards Tanzania this morning. And there are still scattered herds around us. But we saw a lot near Kilolobit Hill, which is that little hill popping out a little bit further to the right. As Craig slowly zooms, there's the tree. There we go. That little hill there, that's Kilolobit, and below that is where we stay at Sala's, and there were lots of wildebeest going off that way towards the Sand River and across into Tanzania. But there still are quite a fair number around. Oh, he's up, heading, I think, to go join mom and brother. Now, remember how fat they were last night, and you can see how quickly cheetah digest. They've got a very fast metabolism, so they have managed to digest quite a fair bit of that wildebeest already. And as I say, they might hunt again this evening, more than likely, though, tomorrow morning. Where's my spot in the shade, guys? It's hot out there on the termite mound. Now, Roshni is wondering, are the musketeers offspring of Malaika? Not that I'm aware of. They are from further to the north in Naibosho, in the Conservancy. Oh, grumpy. But Mom, I'm hot. I just want to lie on top of you to make you hot as well. There we go. Motherly love takes over, and she starts giving him a few licks. Ooh, James has asked me a very difficult question, which is my favorite cheetah's name. Oh, I've got quite a lot of favorite cheetah. I like a lot of the cheetah. I'd probably say at the moment, and that can change, it's a tie-up between, I'm very fond of Malaika's two boys who don't have names just yet, and Amani's two daughters, and I've forgotten their names, but those are my two sort of favorite cheetah at the moment. I do have a spot for Kenya's daughters, and the first cheetah I spent lots of time with, but I must say I am really loving this group of cheetah and Amani's two girls, and there's a bit to do with it. I really like the areas that they hang out in. Now, the musketeers are generally around the Ronkai Valley in that area, which is great, but I don't like, it's not my favorite part of the Mara in terms of scenery and vistas around there, where there is this area down towards the Sand River and that area below Governors towards Main Crossing are two of my favorite areas to spend time in. Now, Kathy in Ohio is wondering, do cheetah chair marks get darker with age? They're pretty dark to begin with. I mean, normally you'll actually find they possibly become a bit lighter. As animals get quite old, they're, in cheetah's case, they tend to lighten. So I wouldn't say any particular darker as they get older. Now, remember, guys, this is 100% live coming to you from the Masai Mara. Use the hashtag SafariLive if you'd like to ask us any questions, just like Kathy has done. Now, they might move to a slightly better tree as it gets warmer today. As I said, after eating that wildebeest yesterday, probably not likely to hunt again till tomorrow morning. So I'm going to go see if we can find some more cheetah that might be a slightly bit more peckish. While we do that, let's go back to my good friend Tristan in South Africa, who's wandering around. It sounds like he's on waterhole patrol.
Well, we are roaming around Chitwa at the moment. We're just looking around to see what there is. It's a beautiful morning and admiring all the beautiful trees that have got leaves on them at the moment. There's lots that are starting to grow leaves quite quickly now, and some of them that didn't have leaves a few days ago have got now after this little bit of rain. So we're just kind of bumbling really and just taking in all the sights and sounds. It's been a beautiful morning for birds and various other things, and so now we're going to head towards the Mulawanini, which might be a little test of our signal story. I hope we don't break up a little bit, but we're just going to drop through a little riverbed quickly, and the only reason I've come this way is because I know it's an area that Hosanna might go into. If he was at the lodge, he might have just sneaked into this little riverbed system where he's going to then spend the day, where there's a bit of shade. It's starting to get hot now. The sun has broken through the clouds, and the sun has got a bit of venom to it today. It's starting to get a little bit warmer, and so I wonder if he's not going to try and seek some shade somewhere and just lie down. Also, it would have been good hunting weather for him, so these areas are all great places for a leopard to hunt in. Always along riverbed sections. It's dense, it's thicker, there's often lots of animals around here in the shape of bushbuck and nyala and those kind of things, and so maybe he was hanging around and caught something, so it's worth checking. Oh, there's a bit of damage done by an elephant on our right hand side. Tree is now down, so I don't want to spend too long inside here because we do get a bit of breakup of signal, so I want to just try and get up and out as fast as I can so that we don't lose all of you, which is, I suppose, not ideal. I was just checking for tracks though. There didn't seem to be any tracks for him, but that's really cool that we still have you guys, because a few months ago, before we put that equipment on Chitwa's mast, there is not any chance in the world that we would have even remotely been able to have said a word to you in that little dip. So that's really nice that we can at least spend time in this area and actually search this area nicely, because this is a section that we've seen Hosanna, Tamba, Tundi, Kuchava, they've all been around this area before, so it's a really seems to be a productive leopard zone. And I remember when I worked at Chitwa, Mvula used to love walking up and down here. Is there leopard tracks? So VM has spotted some leopard tracks, so let's have a look where these end up going and what they do. But he says to me that they're going southwards, so I wonder if these aren't the tracks where he went towards Chitwa Lodge last night. Oh, they're big, Vildi. So VM's telling me that they're big, which means that maybe even Tingana could be around. Were they after the rain, VM? Or before? Okay, so they look freshish, which is okay. That's at least a start. So we'll just try and do a little loop around here and see if we can't find some more tracks and see if there isn't anything popping out on the airstrip side. We know that the boys seem to like this Chitwa airstrip in the last few weeks, so we'll just check that side and make 100% sure. If there's nothing, then we can come back to those tracks there that Vildi saw, and we can try and then track those down, and maybe, just maybe, we'll find Hosanna lying somewhere here, or even Tingana. Wouldn't sneeze at either of them. It'll be nice to find both. Shamson, you say with the rain, wouldn't that mean that the lions and leopards would be scent marking and marking territory again? Well, yes, most certainly they will be. I don't know if they've done it right now. It was still a wet, drizzly start to the day, and so maybe you might find that a lot of them were just trying to dry off, and as the day goes on, and this evening we'll find quite a bit of scent marking taking place. The rain stopped at about 4:15 when it stopped, maybe a little bit later than that. So it was still raining quite late into the day, and that means that a number of the leopards wouldn't have gone on a scent marking patrol yet. They'll only do it this afternoon, so no smell of popcorn yet, but you never know. Maybe around the bends here you could find anything. You never know what you're going to find as you roam around these areas. So hopefully we'll pick up some popcorn smell as well as some really fresh tracks that will help us a lot, and be able to then maybe indicate where exactly this leopard might have gone. But the airstrip will be a good place to check. I'll be surprised if there's tracks here that weren't picked up by the guides though, because as the guides leave the lodge, they leave from directly in front of me, and then they go out, and generally one of them will go onto the airstrip itself, and we'll try and just check the airstrip. So that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to go up the airstrip and check if Hosanna didn't go southwards. Just want to check what tracks those are quickly. The thing about this area is you've got to be a bit careful. There we go. So those look a bit better. No, those are hyena tracks. I thought maybe I'd seen leopard tracks, but just to my right hand side here is where a hyena was sitting, obviously in the rain, so it's walked along. I don't know, it might be a bit close, Vildi, but no chance, it's all too close. So it's a little bit close to the car, but it was where a hyena was lying down during the rain, and then obviously got up as the rain started and went towards the lodge side. So that's not for Hosanna, but maybe, just maybe, he will be somewhere here, and I'll pick up some sort of track for him going up and down this runway, because this will be a nice easy place to see tracks. We'll see lots of footprints in the tire tracks, and we'll be able to then pick up if Hosana did go southwards, or if maybe he's still somewhere around the camp itself. I have a funny feeling that, well, if I was a leopard, I would have decided just to stay near the camp and just end up kind of utilizing the decks as shelter from the rain, and now that it's starting to get a little sunnier, start moving around and actually walking around. Now, interestingly enough, in the last few weeks, I've noticed a lot more of these guys that are sitting at the top of a tree over here, and these are the crow species that we get here in South Africa. So we get different types of species, but they're not ones that we see that often in the reserve itself. In fact, I haven't seen too many of them, but it seems with this Chitwa tower that our crows are really enjoying using it as a place to nest. So the pied crow is using the top of those repeaters, and they're busy building nests at the moment, and there's seems to be a marked increase in the number of pied crows that I've been seeing inside the reserve itself. Now, to tell that it's a pied crow and not any of the other species that we get here, because we do get ravens and other things, the pied crow has that white collar that comes down. The raven will have a grey color to it. So it is one of the crow species, and you can see there's lots of them starting to come into this area at the moment. And I wonder why they're here. They generally are carrion birds, and so they are around where Tingana, Hosana had their little kill, and so I wonder if maybe there's one or two little scraps around that these guys are still able to feed off. Ali, you're asking if the ring-necked doves are around. There are quite a few of the Cape turtle dove, which has a little black collar on it. Other than that, no, we don't have actually a species called a ring-necked dove. We've got red-eyed doves. They also have a little collar around their neck as well. So there are one or two different birds in that regard that have the collar that are around, but ring-necked doves, no, not that we've got, that I know of at least anyway, unless a bird, one of their names has changed and we've got a different name now for one of our dove species, which is possible because the names always keep changing. And in fact, talking about one of our Cape turtle doves with a little ring around its neck, there you can see one that's sitting actually on the ground right there. So it's got that little kind of ring that goes around the back side of the neck on the Cape turtle dove. You guys are fairly common. You find them all over the place. They tend to sing a beautiful little call in the mornings, and I do enjoy them. And you can see they've got short little stubby feet, so you can actually track doves. Funnily enough, it sounds weird that you could identify a track of a bird, but doves, because of their short little feet and their sort of habit of walking on roads, you often find these small little tracks that are shuffling almost together. There's really no sort of break between the actual footprints, so quite cool to see. It's just going about its business, pecking at the edge of the runway. I'm sure there's a few little seeds and things that it can end up feeding on as it goes, and so that's why it's just looking around along the edge of the runway itself and having a little look. Very cool to see though. Nice. Always nice to watch birds. Oh, there goes a spider hunting wasp as well. So there was a spider hunting wasp that just flew past. We don't want that to be investigating us too much. But I'm just scanning these trees in case there's little bits of carcasses that these crows might have been feeding on. I don't see anything. There's another vehicle that's overtaken us on the runway. It feels almost, I don't know why, but when I'm on this runway, it always feels like it's a bit of a race when you have another vehicle. It's like you just want to kind of go and do a bit of a drag race down here. And I actually have a very entertaining story about this runway and driving and drag racing. Not that I was drag racing, but basically we had a drink stop at this runway when I was working at Chitwa, and one of the guests had forgotten something behind at the lodge, and so I said, no, it's no problem, I'll just go back and fetch it for you quickly. So we kind of dropped all the guests off with some of the other cars, and myself and my tracker took one of the other vehicles that we didn't drive, that the guys used just to come and set up this drink stop, and so we took that vehicle, and I came barreling down the runway, which was, you know, downhill and kind of completely really not going that fast, but faster than probably I should have been going in that particular vehicle, because unbeknown to me, that vehicle had absolutely no brakes, and so there was no handbrake, no brakes, no anything. And so I came barreling down this runway. We got to the edge of the runway and no brakes were getting pushed, and the car was gathering momentum as we were plowing towards room 11, and I was just envisaging the situation where I'm going to have to explain to Charles why he has a Land Rover parked in one of his rooms and walls broken and all kinds of other things. But luckily luckily we managed to gear the car down and eventually get it to the point where it was going slow enough that we could kind of get it to almost turn and go along the driveway and lose momentum that way. But it was a close call. We almost ended up rolling the car as we geared down. It was just an absolute disaster. But anyway, it was quite funny. My tracker's eyes were about as big as his hands by the time we finished that whole story. He just looked at me shaking his head and telling me that I'm up to no good. But anyway, it was quite fun though. I laughed about it. Ian, so the reason why I know there's no planes, I don't know why I said plans, but there's no planes wanting to land here, and why I can drive this without any fear of being kind of decapitated by the wing of an aeroplane is that any plane that lands here, generally there's a rule that they have to land outside of game drive times. So we have a situation where planes will only go when we've finished drives, but if they do land between drives, then there's a message that's just sent out to everybody that there's a plane landing at this time on this runway, and then you just know to avoid it. Also, the nice thing about bush runways is, as you can see, there's multiple different exit points on all sides here, and so as soon as I see a plane coming into land, I just drive off over there and it just lands next to me, and it's not really too much of an issue. So you can avoid them quite well if you pay attention and you look and you just check what you're doing, because at the end of the day, you know, it's not exactly like there is massive jumbo jets landing here. Most of the planes, particularly on this Chitwa runway, because it's quite short, are small planes. And funnily enough, there was actually a plane crash here at Chitwa runway. We once had a plane that went straight off the end here and plowed into this little drainage line at the bottom runway here, and it's because Chitwa's runway is actually like this. It's almost like a pyramid shape, and so people come over the top there and then they don't pull up fast enough, and then this guy just went straight into the end, which was quite entertaining. Nobody got hurt by it. Around by a TLB or a tractor, basically pulled it. Break up. So in the 2012 play. So sorry about that, guys. Unfortunately, we lost our reception and on the base of Chitwa, right on the southern boundary, so we ended up with a situation where unfortunately lost what was going on there. But we try and kind of head back towards where those tracks were and just see where they go. There's no sign on the cut line with the nets of any of the leopards that have been hanging around that area, because there was an unknown female there yesterday, which we then discovered was known as the Sabi female. Now, Sabi female is a female that was born to a leopard that had died, I think it's this year, might have been this year or last year, the Kikalezi female, and she's actually quite an interesting lineage. It's a lineage that goes back quite a long way in Londolozi from Sunset Bend female. So it's interesting to see that she's being seen up here. This is the second time that she's actually been seen in this area, and she was seen basically straight south of where I am right now. I don't know what her direction was last night. That was yesterday morning, so I don't know what her direction is last night and where she ended up heading, but just worth checking around in this direction. Also, I know that Kuchava and Tamba have both been seen quite regularly just on the southern side of Chitwa boundary, and I asked the guys when the last time they saw Tamba was, and they told me no, they saw him 2 days ago, right just on the cusp of Chitwa itself. And so I was thinking to myself that maybe I wonder if this male leopard that they saw last night around room 11 on foot, because also at night when you're on foot you don't really take in too much detail as to why you are or what leopard you are seeing when you're walking around in the dark. So maybe it's little Tamba that was here and not Hosanna. It'll be interesting either way to see as to which one it was, and so maybe just head back in that area and have a look, but otherwise no real signs of anything crossing the boundary northwards. Of course, Chitwa does extend quite a long way that way. This is the sort of more western side of Chitwa. There's quite a long stint that goes east, so it might be worth just checking around that area. I might get hold of the guys that have been on the nets this morning and just see if they had any tracks or where they ended up going. But before we do that, we'll just go back to VM's tracks and just double check if those are before the rain, after the rain, during the rain, or what the story is with them as we kind of head in that direction. So just looking. It's often a good place just to gaze around and kind of see this left-hand side here, which is known as Mike's Kitchen. Now, the reason it got the name Mike's Kitchen, which is completely ridiculous, is that because of its sort of short grass nature, and it's cut because of the runway and all the other kind of thing, and just to make sure that there's at least some visibility for the planes when they land. There's a lot of animals that spend time here, so a lot of wildebeest, zebra, impalas, and so it was basically decided by some of the rangers that it's like a family restaurant. And here in South Africa there was a family restaurant back in the day called Mike's Kitchen that all kids always used to go to, and so that's why this open area is actually known as Mike's Kitchen, which is completely ridiculous, but anyway, it's the way it goes. But it is a good place to check. It's often a great place for lions. I've seen a lot of the Birminghams here sticks back in the day when we used to see the Solala breakaways with the original tailless female. They used to spend a lot of time here as well, so it is a good place always just to scan around and have a look. And it's a weird one. Often you kind of, because it's so open, you just glance over it and you often miss quite a bit of what goes on there. There's a number of little termite mounds that things can hide behind and so on, so you've got to just double check and triple check and make 100% sure. Now, while I'm driving here, I'm also just checking on my eastern side, because on the eastern side of the runway there's a number of termite mounds, and I've seen Hosanna use these termite mounds a few times. So there's one over there that I've seen him on, and then one behind us, and so that's why every now and then I'm just kind of scanning on this over my shoulder just to double check and make sure he's not just lying on one of those curled up. I would have imagined that this morning most of our leopards would have been fairly curled up and just kind of avoiding all the wet grass, but now that it's drying up and a bit of sunshine is out, I'd hope that they are going to start just getting up and moving a little bit, and maybe we see some sort of sign of them actually doing some things. But what I'm going to do from now is just going to head straight down the runway off the end on the northern side, and we're going to just go past where room 11 is. There's a little dip that goes through a drainage section. Now, that drainage section often is a place where Tundi used to walk around, and so there's a squirrel alarm calling. But the squirrel alarm calling is behind me in one of these big trees. And there's some nyala right there too, so that means that in all likelihood there is no leopard, unless it's a unsuspecting nyala being chased by, well, about to be chased by a leopard, but I don't think so. The squirrel's not really going as crazy as I thought it would. I thought it would have been, you know, if it's something like a leopard, you'll find squirrels go absolutely crazy. They'll shout and scream and they'll make a lot of noise if it's a leopard, whereas if it's just something like that they've seen flying over, then they generally are a little bit more kind of relaxed about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to just go down along the edge of Chitwa camp here and just try and check if there isn't anything. I'll show you guys where I used to live as well, so we can have a little look at my old house. And I used to actually really enjoy this place. I didn't have hot water for a while, but it was really cool to live here. There never used to be this big elephant-proof fence around the camp when I used to live here. It used to be all open here. And often I would walk out of my room and there would be various different animals. I don't think I can actually recall one animal that I didn't see from my room. I saw pretty much everything from here, from lion to leopard to all kinds of other ones. So I used to actually live in this little house just on our left hand side here. There's a little road that goes, and then that was where I used to stay. So it's actually quite a nice little place. And I remember the one night very fondly, there we go, where that silver car is. That is my old house that I used to stay at when I was a ranger at Chitwa. So lots of good memories as I come past here. But I remember the one night actually I was busy. I'd walked guests to the last room, which is right here, and then I used to take a shortcut just through the bush back home if it was the last guest that I'd walked to their rooms at night. And the one night I walked here, and as I was walking back, I just saw these lionesses come running past me, and of course I was absolutely petrified because I thought these lionesses were running at me at first, but they weren't. They ran literally, I would say, within about 5 meters past me, and there was no issue or anything. They didn't even give me a second look, and I was quite surprised. I thought, you know, if they'd seen me, they would have, you know, stopped at least or made some sort of commotion, but alas, there was nothing. So I was a bit perplexed by this, and they seemed a bit panicked in their way that they were moving, so I thought maybe they were chasing something or there was some sort of issue going on there. And then I kind of carried on walking as though nothing was happening, and then I got my first introduction to the Matimba Coalition, and it was 6 male lions that came barreling straight past me as well at about 5 meters away, chasing after these females, and they were trying to assert themselves. It was just at that time that the Majingalans had started heading more towards the south, and so these Matimbas were starting to come in, and it was the real first time that the Matimbas had been seen, and these 6 males came flying past me, and I just about kind of wet myself before I realized what was going on, and that they had no intention of even looking at me through that whole process. But it was just quite something to see, 6 male lions in the darkness of the night with my little torch while walking around. It was quite funny, actually. Now, no sign of any leopard in this area, but I'm going to try and just double check around the section where VM had these tracks, and while I do that, I believe Jamie is back up and running, and I believe she has got the tallest of creatures that also has spots, but is not exactly like the spotted creature that we are looking for.
Well, we haven't found our spotted cat, but we have found a patchy creature, as James says. James was terribly upset with me when I linked him once with a spotted animal to describe a giraffe, because as he says, it's not really spots, it's more patches. And this giraffe was drinking so beautifully for us a moment ago, but now she's on her way off. I can't find my cheetah. I don't know where she's gone. It is really like looking for a needle in a haystack, though. That's, of course, why we stayed up all night with the animals during the TV series. Apologies, I'm just putting sunblock on at the same time as we're doing this, as the sun is starting to beat down. Here we go. Well, I might have missed a few patches, but that'll be okay. I think I missed my ears. Okay. So, we've come all the way to the top of a ridge, and it is quite beautiful, or at least it's beautiful in that direction. That direction's a bit bright still. It's quite hard to look in that direction, but that direction is really quite stunning. I'm not far now from where Brent is. Well, I'm not far from where Brent is. Presumably he's somewhere around Lookout Hill. I can see Lookout Hill, and off in the direction of Ashnols. So we're not far, but where our cheetah is, I do not know. The way that she was behaving yesterday was so erratic and unpredictable that she could have dashed in any direction. She's got a full 360-degree, opportunity to go somewhere in the Mara. Giraffe bending down again. Is it eating or drinking? Eating, by the looks of things. Very sparse out here, and very, very quiet. Just the sound of the wind and the frogs. Sometimes it pays to just sit in one place and look and listen, as we said before, but I don't think she's come up this way. The way that I've planned out my search, just make sure I got all the sunblock on my forehead, otherwise I'm going to have white patches. The way that I planned out my search was, essentially, I looked at which direction all the other cars had come from, asked them if they'd seen anything, and then went in the opposite direction, basically. Lacking any other evidence, and of course it's impossible to track here, because it's so muddy that the ground is now hard, and the chances of picking up on her tracks in this space, it's impossible. I've got a feeling she's not far, though. That, of course, could be entirely misguided. Here's a little baby zebra. Let's have a look at the little baby zebra. Let me just get the sun not straight into us. Starts to get very confusing around here. Everything starts to look the same. It's easy to navigate on a large scale. It's slightly more difficult on a small scale. There you go, there's our zebbies. And there's the little baby. Oh, I'm sorry, little baby, my timing's terrible. Right in the middle of relieving itself. It's because James isn't here. Here we go. Tiny little baby zebra. Looks like something out of a cartoon when it's poised like that. Too sweet. We have a look quickly while we watch our zebra. Megs, when you say interference, like it's crackling, or... Let's try that. Maybe check one last thing. Sorry everyone, this might be a bit rusty. Okay, I'm going to fiddle around with my microphone a little bit and see what the problem is. Let's send you across to Scott, who has made his way to a river.
Yes, we are at the mighty Mara River. As you can see, there are crocodiles waiting in anticipation. And what they are waiting for are a few zebra. There they are. They're approaching this crossing point. We were here a bit earlier on this morning. Oh, it looks like they're not too sure about it. But I think just before we got here, some others may have just crossed, which is going to certainly give these zebra some good reason to also cross. It looks like now they're just trying to build up one another's courage. Oh, no, they are not convinced that this is a good idea. But it's not uncommon for crossings to take time to occur. Lots of toing and froing. And as you can see, these guys have all decided that it is not such a good idea to cross. And they're all now fleeing in the opposite direction. What a pity. For the crocodiles, and for us, maybe a good move for them. Because as you saw, there was a whole big bunch of monster crocodiles waiting to try and cash in on an easy meal. Seems like they're going to have to be patient, but interestingly, there are some other animals coming down to the river that may also cross, one of which is a topi, and the rest of which are Thompson's gazelle. Now, all of these animals are known to cross the Mara River, so maybe they will lead the charge. I've just met up with the head warden of the Mara Triangle, and he said we can expect a lot of zebra crossings outside of the migration months in the next few weeks. He says with the rain that's been falling mainly on the opposite side of the river, we can look forward to lots more zebra crossings. So that's something that I thought would be worth sharing with you, some inside scoop of what may happen in the next few weeks. Now, I apologize, it sounds like we are having some audio issues here, so we are going to be sending you, I think, back to Djuma.
Indeed you are. You're back with me. Our gremlins are gone for the morning. It sounds like our viewer telemaster is working properly again. It seems like the gremlins have been in full force. Maybe they arrived with the rain this side of the world, but we shall vanquish them soon. And once Gari is back up again, then hopefully it's actually going to be even better, because the Gari repeater will be slightly taller, the new one, and that should mean that we have better signal around Vuatela camp, which is going to be more Vuatela itself. So it's going to be really good, and hopefully we'll have not so many worries with regards to signal. But look at this is very cool. So here's a whole bunch of red-billed quellias that are flocking together. So these guys come in quite great numbers, and it's probably one of the biggest things that I'll miss about Cheetah Plains over the summer period is the monotonous larks and the red-billed quellias, because there you used to get red-billed quellias in mass on that big open area, and you used to see big flocks of them flying around, and the falcons would come in, and so Amur falcons, Wahlberg's eagles, lesser spotted eagle, all of those kind of species would come in and hunt these quellias. And so it's probably one of the better things that I'll miss a bit about there. Obviously the cheetah brothers have been missed as well, but these guys are so cool, and I just love watching them kind of fly around in big groups like this, and to see them kind of moving, and especially when there's huge flocks together and they move around. It's sort of sunrise and sunset, and it's almost like this fluid ball that just kind of takes on all these unique shapes. It's amazing to watch. I really do enjoy it. So hopefully we will see some of them on quarantine and places like that, but it is a wonderful thing to watch them in the sunset and them kind of just doing this intricate kind of movement. It's almost a bit mesmerizing, and you kind of end up daydreaming and drifting off a little bit. Now, interestingly enough, earlier when I was coming towards Chitwa, and I forgot to talk about this, we found tracks for small female leopard. Now, I'm not sure who it could be. I surmise that it might be Shadow's cub. Bless you, Vildy. So Vildy's got a few sneezes on the back, and it would be rude for me not to say so. And so I surmise it could be Shadow's cub, but I don't know. It might be a little bit big even for Shadow's cub. So who knows? Maybe it's the little princess that is back and around again. It'll be interesting. They're before the rain, and they're so washed that it's really difficult to find which direction it went. I mean, I looked as hard as I could, and I tried to check, but difficult to see where they went, and it looks like they turned back south onto Little Gari, but I'm not was going quite close to where those tracks are, so maybe it is Shadow's cub, and I'm just getting a bit hopeful and wishful thinking, but one can dream, can't they? At the end of the day, it'll be so good just to catch up with Shangile again and just find out how she's doing and where she is and what's been happening, and to see how she's grown and developed as a little leopard. Now, I'm gonna try check Leadwood Road. This is a road that Tundi sometimes likes to frequent, so we're going to check along Leadwood and slowly back towards Twin Dams area. There's really very little going on. I spoke to Tax and Rex, and they tracked some lions, which I would imagine must be the Torchwood Pride around Torchwood and then into the Kruger Park area. Six Pride are south on Cheetah Plains, apparently coming northwards, so maybe we get lucky and they come on to Chitwa by this afternoon or tomorrow morning. In Kahuma Pride, still very far in the west, southwest along the Londolozi boundary, so lots of lions around us, but nothing really coming towards where we can go, so we'll just have to kind of keep trucking around for our spotted cats to get our cat fixes. It is a Sunday, and yesterday was cat day, and I think that's the first cat day in a long time that we actually haven't had a cat. I would actually like to know when the last cat day was that we didn't have a cat here at Djuma. I know Mara, they must have had cats yesterday. Did they have cats yesterday, Vildy? You don't know? No. Probably, I would imagine so. There's generally a few cats around. Yes, they had cheetah yesterday. I saw a post from Brent that they had cheetah yesterday, so at least we had them to keep our cat day streaks going. But in terms of the Djuma cat day, it would actually be interesting to know. Maybe some of you can let us know, when was the last cat day at Djuma that we didn't have a cat? Maybe it's closer than I remember. It just seems as though we've had quite a few successful cat days over the last few months. Hashtag Spoiler, if you do know. Right, now I was talking about cats and predators and various other things that roam around with sharp teeth and eat various other animals. Now, I believe Scotty D, who sorted out his audio problems, is back up and running, has a toothy predator of his own.
So, well done to the team. Oh, funny. The crocodiles still wait patiently, however it seems like they're going to have that'll explain it. The antenna's kind of pulled out. There we go. Sorry. Like I said, the crocs are going to have to continue to be very patient, which they're good at doing, lying in ambush, waiting for their prey to cross the river. The zebra that were here earlier have all going to look for another crossing point, or maybe they've decided that crossing is just not a good idea. We need to rush you off to some exciting stuff.
We do have something very, very exciting now. I'm just trying to get round because they are moving, but it's going to be super cool to see these guys, because this is absolutely out of the blue and no way that I thought we would see them. But there in front you see the white tail and big ears of a wild dog that is busy running straight southwards. Now we're going to try and keep up. It looks like just one wild dog. No, there's 5 of them. There we go. So these are a breakaway split from the Mbali pack, I believe, but they are going towards Torchwood and Chitwa. But how cool is that, guys? What an epic surprise. I'm so excited that we got to see them. I didn't think we would, and so going up towards Chitwa and Leadwood was a perfect idea. And Vildi spotted them from quite far. There's actually a tawny eagle that's busy following them. So it's a really cool relationship to see. The dogs are trotting and the tawny eagle keeps flying from tree to tree following them. They know that the dogs are often successful, and so hopefully they're going to get some food. Now I do need to obviously call this in because it's going to be of interest to a lot of people, and we are going to cross onto another area, and I don't want someone to catch me with the dogs thinking that I haven't called them in, because it is a sighting of interest. Station just located the dogs, 5 wild dogs, mobile south on Cheetah Cut Line from Leadwood towards Gari Main. They're going to be crossing in probably the next few minutes. So that's the one radio channel that we've just done. Now we've got to do the other channel, which is the guys on the other side, because we're about to cross the boundary onto Chitwa. So it might get quite busy, but well, it's still going to be an epic morning. Hopefully they run down towards Chitwa Dam. Lots of impalas and waterbuck not too far from where we are now. They look like they're still on the hunt. They're trotting. Bellies are quite big, so maybe we'll get lucky and we'll see them going. This station, just an update. Wild dogs, mobile south, Cheetah Cut Line, about to hit Gari Main. 1 station on lock. Now, how cool is this? So where they're running, we just came from there now, and there was impalas and there was lots and lots of baby waterbuck. So I wonder if they're not going to hunt those. Hopefully they do. If they do hunt, and they must run down towards Chitwa Dam, because that'll just be absolutely perfect, because they'll end up then chasing things towards the water, and sometimes then they go in the water and there's this epic kind of struggle around the water for this animal, and then the crocodiles get involved, and it's all really quite epic and full of... Listen. So that is something that is incredibly special that you very seldom hear. It's called a who call, and that's this pack trying to find the rest of the pack. So they're calling, trying to hear where the others are, and it's a seldom heard sound. So that is incredibly special to hear. Now, a lot of people often ask, what does the sound the wild dogs make? That's the sound right there. So they make a who call. They don't bark. They make this much higher pitch sound than a barking sound. But how special is that? To hear that is very cool. It's been a long, long time since I've heard a wild dog who call. So cool. We're being absolutely spoilt by hearing that. Right, let's get down and just try and catch up with them a little bit, but they are heading straight towards Chitwa. It's obviously going to be interesting, because if they head even remotely to the west, we can't follow them. That goes on to Little Gari. But if they head south, oh no, don't go that way, go south. No, they're going, seems as though they're going to go straight over the road. Yes, go down towards the dam, that's better. So they are heading slowly towards the dam, which is fantastic news. It's also great because our signal there is really strong, so we should be able to keep up with the dogs for quite some time, which is absolutely epic. How cool is this though? Trotting around with wild dogs in the morning is the best way to spend a Sunday morning. Now they might have a little drink here. There's a bit of water. I don't even know if there is any water left, but let's have a look. They might go and have a bit of a drink. It's not very nice water that they're looking at, but let's check. No, I think they've decided that that's not very good water at all. Rain Ranko, you say that call was amazing. You thought it was a bird. I know, how incredible was that? Very cool to see, and it's not something that you hear very often. Like I say, I can't even remember the last time. Nice. Now, peeing in the water, lovely. So poor animal that comes next to drink this. Are you going to drink it as well? Yes, you are. That's just typical wild dog right there. Sometimes can be another story altogether. But the poor animal that comes and drinks next is not going to know what hit it. But how cool. I'm so excited. This is epic. Now they are trotting onto Little Gari, so we're not going to be able to stay with them for much longer. I do need to let the other guys know, because obviously I can't follow them. If any station can copy me, these dogs are at JC Pan. They're now mobile southwest. Looks like they might cross into Little Gari. Still 1 station on lock. So just quickly had to just let the guys know, and just so that if they do want to come, that they can come and join us. But they seem as though they've got quite round bellies, so it's almost like they might have had a meal at some point, so maybe a small meal, nothing too major, but maybe something small, and now it's time to carry on. It could be why the tawny eagle found them in the first place, is that they were busy feeding, and that's why the tawny eagle is kind of following in behind, but it's not a massive amount of food that's inside there. Now back north we go. Are you going to go back to your pea puddle and go and drink? Yes. There we go. How cool is this? Are you going to lie down for us? And this is a common thing that you see wild dogs and hyenas do. I've seen it many times from both of them. I think it lay on a little terrapin. That's why it ended up getting back up again, because I saw something move in the actual water itself. Now, I don't know if there is a little terrapin in there, but there seems like something's moving. So I think a little terrapin gave it a nip when it sat on top of it, and that's why it up and around again. But I think that's it. We're going to, unfortunately, you can see they're crossing. This is the boundary with Little Gowrie right here, so we can park on the verge of this grass, but our view of the dogs is going to be gone in the next 2 minutes, so we'll just watch them as they trot off into the distance. What a pleasant surprise, and to hear them hoo calling, to see them as nicely as we have, is really quite special. So even though it's a short but sweet sighting, it is epic to see. And well, why wouldn't you want to see wild dogs? They're such funny animals. They've got so many little idiosyncrasies about them and little kind of nuances that really are quite fun to watch. So I always enjoy spending time with the dogs. And there we go, off they trot into the distance. And that's the last we're going to see of those big ears as they go. There we go. Jamie, you're asking how far a hoo call can be heard by other wild dogs. Well, it depends on a lot of factors. I mean, it obviously depends on the terrain and vegetation and various other types of things. But from what I understand, and I'll double check it with the researchers, but as far as I understand, they pick it up from about 3 to 4 kilometers away. So that's about as much as they can pick it up. It's not as loud as something like a lion's roar or even a leopard's saw, but it's apparently it carries quite far for some reason. And so there's a situation where it does carry quite well, and so it's, you know, they do hear it from quite far away. But I think they need to head further north, unfortunately. Now I just need to tell these guys where they've gone. They've unfortunately run into Little Gowrie, so they've drifted into Little Gowrie, just gone straight like that. But maybe just take the Chitwa cut line, maybe they turn back. They up and down quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go around
Yeah, I'm just going to go around onto Gowrie Main and just see if they come out. Cool. Cheers, guys. So also our radio channel in this particular part of the world is very difficult. We don't really hear very well, so it's better that I just communicate with somebody in face to face that they can at least understand and be able to then tell everybody else exactly what's going on. But I don't think those dogs are going to come back to an area that we can drive, unfortunately. I'm just going along a little bit just to see if maybe they've turned back north, but given that they've come from directly north of where we are, chances of them heading back this way is very, very slim, unless another dog started to hoo call. That would then definitely drive them here, or they bumped into an animal and they chased it back to the northwards. But that was a super special surprise and not something that we expected at all. It was really very cool to see. So well done, Vildi. Good job. You've earned your breakfast this morning, Vildi. We'll feed you today, and we'll put it out. Oh, what breakfast do you want? I'll have to radio camp to get an order in for VM for spotting us the wild dogs.
Regular bacon, eggs and fine.
Regular bacon and eggs.
Dibs on the leopard cup.
You get dibs on the leopard cup. Okay, perfect. So VM wants the leopard cup. So those of you at camp, do not touch VM's leopard cup. He's deserved it by spotting wild dogs this morning. So no sign of the dogs trotting this way. I'm just scanning and looking. It's quite dense here, and the direction that they were heading is more in a sort of southerly direction, and so I don't think that they're going to end up popping out this way at all. And I don't think they're going to head to Chitwa Dam either. They were kind of angling a little bit too far west to head towards Chitwa Dam. They needed to go a little bit further southwards in order to head that direction. But oh well, like I say, wonderful surprise and not something we expected to see. So the last update I got on the wild dogs, and earlier someone was asking about the dogs and where they were, the last update I got was that they were on the Buffelshoek-Manyeleti boundary going north, and that they'd crossed into Manyeleti. So they've gone a long way during the night, and they've ended up coming all the way back the way that they went last night. So that was nice, at least, worth checking. What do you think, Bildy? I think they're gone. Kent, wild dog packs get quite large. They, funny enough, there was a pack that was in Kruger at one point that I think had gotten to about 40. It was about 43, 44, somewhere around there. They were quite big, and I've heard and read about packs in the past going as much as 70, so those are really, really large. Nowadays, though, very seldom do we see packs that go over 30. Most of our packs will range between sort of 10 and 30 individuals. A big pack is generally between 20 and 30 for us, but if you look at the Sabi Sands packs, given that there's a very high predator density here already, that's most of our packs here are sort of in the teens, the early teens. That's what we see from the Toulon and Sands and Investec pack. Now that they've obviously split, it's a little bit different, but most definitely that's the kind of normal size, is in the early teens to mid-teens. But you never know. Hopefully there's going to be times where the packs will grow and get bigger again, and we'll see a situation where wild dog packs numbers increase. I don't know if that's ever going to be the case. Unfortunately, wild dogs are such a unique species and require certain conditions in order to survive properly and in order to actually thrive. And I don't know if with the global warming phenomenon and increases in rain and droughts and all kinds of other things, whether that's going to be possible for dogs to actually thrive and thrive well. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll just have to see how it goes. But I would love to see. Imagine seeing a pack of 70 dogs. How incredible that must have been. It must have been absolutely unbelievable as those dogs kind of ran around and went all over the place. Poor animals, if they were around. Right, now I'm going to carry on and just check what else is out and about, and see if there is anything that's come out with the sunshine like our wild dogs. Now, talking about wild dogs, there is somebody in the Masai Mara that is absolutely in love with wild dogs, and that's Brent Leo Smith.
Well, we are still in search for... oh, what's her name now? Not Mbali, that's a flower. I was just thinking about the Mbali pack that Tristan just saw that I'm quite jealous about. I can't remember the name of the cheetah I'm looking for. I'll remember just now. But she's got one cub. I'm not sure whether it's a male or a female. No, it's not her. But she was seen last night, but apparently there was a pride of lions close to her. So I've extended my search parameters, and I'm a bit further away from where she was seen last night. And I'm hoping that she is around. Now, I've sort of ventured into the area where the five boys might also be around. I know they weren't seen yesterday, so they could literally be anywhere. Ooh, there we go. A couple of nice birds for the birders. There's one over there. It's a bit closer, Craig. Tenex courses. Like Thompson's gazelles, they love a bit of short grass or burnt grass. They'll fly around between the two. Very pretty little bird. Here we go. Oh, it caught something on the way. Oh, good. Scoffed down that grasshopper in 2 seconds. Now the wind is starting to blow, so I'm hoping we do find this cheetah shortly. I'm just going to have a quick peruse with my binoculars. You'll see the flies are really bad. The migration's just moved through here, leaving lots of flies. Now, hopefully, Mr. Dyson next to the river has less flies to deal with than I do.
Hello, and as you can see, there's a mammoth crocodilian enjoying the morning rays, as are we. It's turning out to be a beautiful day, bit of a breeze blowing, and we thought we'd come to another crossing point to see if we wouldn't get lucky. There was some topi kind of heading in this general direction. We're not sure where they've disappeared to. Bottomless with some oxpeckers that are going to have to be swift if they're planning on getting any more meals from him or her. But thankfully they've got a few other options. Come on, give us the full call. It just let out one, but didn't finish off with a wonderful call. Good, well, I'm glad you got a glimpse of the painted wolves with Tristan, and not only that, that you got to hear them calling. It's the most wonderful call, and something that they don't do, I don't think, as regularly as animals maybe like lion or leopard. So it makes it tricky for us to show it to you because they don't do it very often. So that was a bonus for all of you guys. I'm missing wild dogs in the Mara. That's one animal that isn't very plentiful here. I've heard of a sighting of 2 that were seen on the other side of the river. Apologies, it sounds like you can hear me, but the picture is frozen, which is not much use, so we're going to send you back to the man who found you those painted wolves, who is in perfect working order.
Well, we're just busy seeing a brown hooded kingfisher that's flying past, so I was busy looking at that, so I didn't actually hear what Scotty said. I just heard something about wild dogs, which Wildy's now spotted my kingfisher sitting down, so let's try and get back to... so Scott was glad I found wild dogs. I'm sure he was. I'm sure Scott and Brent, both of them, miss the wild dogs. They're such incredible animals, and when you don't see them, a lot of people don't really like wild dogs or don't really care about wild dogs. If they come on safari, they don't really know what a wild dog is or don't really worry about seeing them. But I know Brent and Scott, and even if I was to spend a lot of time in Kenya, I'd be one of the animals I'd probably miss the most. It's just, they're just such incredible things, and the way that they move around and the way that they have these social interactions and just the absolute chaos that generally ensues when you find wild dogs is always very, very cool. So I'm pretty sure the 2 of them would love to see dogs, and imagine seeing dogs in the Mara, how much fun that would be. It would be open enough to actually see what's going on. Mita, who's 8 years old. Hello, Mita. Long time no hear. I hope that you are well. Now, Mita wants to know if we're seeing the wild dogs a lot more recently. I suppose yes. We've had a few more, well, a little bit more consistent sightings of our wild dogs. So they have been a little bit better, the sightings with them. We haven't seen them as much as we would like to, and then they haven't been around all the time, but there's definitely been an upturn, or at least more sightings of the dogs over the last month than there was in previous months during winter when they were denning. So yeah, we are seeing dogs a little bit more. It's nice because at the moment the dogs are all in a phase where they're splitting and forming new packs, and so there's a lot more chance of seeing dogs because there's a lot more movement of the dogs. So instead of, let's say, this stick pack that's 13 dogs staying together, you've now got 2 packs of 5 dogs and 8 dogs, and those 2 are moving in different places, and so we've got a chance of seeing either one at a different time. So it means we're seeing dogs a little bit more regularly at the moment, which is nice. It's not regular enough just yet, but we are seeing them a lot better, which is good. And generally it's like this in summer, Mita. We see them a lot more as we go in the summer months than we do in the winter, and the reason why is because in summer they're not denning, so they're not staying in one place. They are able to move a lot bigger distances because they don't have to feed the puppies, and so that's why we are ending up seeing them a lot more at this time of the year. Now hopefully our signal is going to hold. We're testing because Jared, our tech genius, has now fixed apparently the mast, and so far so good. It's much better than it started out this morning, and so now we're just testing along towards Treehouse Dam to see how well he's managed to do it, because if it's got signal at Treehouse Dam, well then we've pretty much solved the problem we had this morning, which is great news, because that means that we can drive around this afternoon without too much hindrance or too much worry, and it won't be anything like how we started this morning, which is good. Now that actually brings me to my next point, is that this afternoon we do have somebody that is going to be on into drive here at Djuma. His name is Ralph, so you're going to have to all be very nice to Ralph this afternoon as he negotiates his first drive as in front of a camera. He's been in the industry for quite some time and is a knowledgeable fan. he's going to try and guide you around and take you around, and hopefully, like I say, you'll all be nice to him and ask him many questions. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting stories to tell, because he spent a lot of time not in this area actually. He's guided in other parts of South Africa. So it will be interesting for you guys to learn a little bit about a lot of different places, and particularly the Eastern Cape, a little bit in the Eastern Cape, and I believe he spent some time in Namibia and places like that, so which is a very different area to what we're in now. And so it will be interesting just to hear some of his stories and hear his experiences as he's been around. So hopefully, like I say, will be really nice to him. Now, Treehouse Dam, we've got a bit of patchy signal, I believe, but we're still here and still with you, and look how beautiful it looks this morning. It's still, there's not too much wind, lots of reflections. Egyptian geese are here, or geese should I say, are around, and that's about it. There's not too much else happening. There's no sign of Scuba Steve, our hippo, that sometimes spends time here. In fact, Scuba Steve lately has really been a bit absent. I don't know where Scuba Steve has been. Maybe he's up at Buffelshoek Dam at the moment. I'm not quite sure. We haven't been able to go up to Buffelshoek Dam too much because of the Gari repeater, but maybe that's where he's been hiding out. Seen lots of tracks for hippos moving around every night, but we don't find them in Twin Dams or Treehouse. It seems as though they push south towards Treehouse Dam on Little Gari. Now, that's also a beautiful dam. I'm not sure if anybody's ever seen it before, but it is this open, massive open area, and then this big dam that stretches out. It is very pretty down there, and there's a number of hippos that spend time in that area. So all quite quiet on the Treehouse Dam front. I was hoping that there might be some sign of Shadow and Cub, or maybe even Hosanna, or anything like that, but it seems as though it's all relatively quiet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to back up off. In fact, actually, I'm going to go forward and turn around that way. Leopard tracks that we had right in the start of the show that were squashed by rain, or had been rained upon, headed up towards that area. And so maybe I get lucky. You never know. With weather like we had last night, there's always a possibility that a kill has been made, and so it's worth just checking and double checking around an area. Even if the rain has fallen on top of those tracks, it might mean that that animal's killed somewhere close by, and we'll be able to find it. So that's why we're going to try and head in that general direction. Amy, you're asking if we're going to see any different animals in the summer months. Not really much in the animal world, or mammal world, should I say. We don't really get any different mammals out. The bats will be probably a lot more active because of the insect activity in the evenings, so you see a lot of bats flying around in the evenings. But other than that, no, not too much. Hopefully we're going to see an increase in our number of elephants and buffalo. That would be a number one prize, particularly the male buffalo. I often see them in the summer months lounging in all of these mud wallows and just resting in the heat. So really hoping that those start to come back, and lots of herds of ellies feed off the lush vegetation summer. And in terms of a lot of bird species are going to come in, insects of different insects that we're going to have. I'm really looking forward to see come out, and I'm really interested to see what kind of insects we get this year, and hopefully we're going to get some interesting new ones that we don't know. It seems as though every summer there's something different to look at in the insect world and to take in, and so hopefully lots of insects. And then love the golden orb web spiders. They build this most amazing web. It's massive, it's big, it's got this golden sheen to it. The spider itself is colorful and massive, and just interesting to watch the things that they catch, because they catch all kinds of things, even sometimes small birds and little lizards and geckos and funny things like that. So I always look forward to going and inspecting a orb web nest and watch them go about their business, and in fact actually watch them sometimes even catch things, because you'll find that there's little grasshoppers that fly in, and you get there as the grasshopper gets into the web, and then you see the spider coming down, injecting the venom, wrapping it up. It's all really interesting to watch. So the summer brings about a lot more smaller things and a lot of really interesting things on a much smaller scale. So while the animals are still pretty much the same, and the mammals are still very similar in terms of the actual life that we see, there's just lots more of that and a lot more of the smaller scale stuff. So it really is nice, and with our bushwalks really going to be starting out in earnest over the next little bit, as when James arrives back at the end of the month, and Steph, and so it's going to be really quite cool once they're here, because we're going to be able to do a lot more walking, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with my nose to the ground basically as we walk along and try and check out what's been happening on the arthropod world as the rains have come. We're still a little bit sort of shy of our insect numbers because we haven't really had the really good rains yet, but it's slowly but surely picking up. There's definitely a lot more happening. And actually yesterday, talking about arthropods, hopefully that little arthropod didn't go under the wheel because it saw it quite late, and I'm trying just to turn my car so that it doesn't, but there should be a little arthropod on the road itself. Can we see it there, VM, or do I need to go back a little bit more? Too close, or are we good? But there we go. There's one of our millipedes. So Mildred, as Taylor calls every single millipede that it sees, and you can see Mildred is now trying to make friends and coming closer to us. But these are one of the first few millipedes that we've seen. I actually don't know if we've put a millipede on camera since the rains have started. There have been a few around camp, but this is the first one I've actually seen out on drive. And these guys are just tritivores, so they're moving around looking for leaf litter and various other things. Now I'm going to try and move before it goes under the car, because I don't want to have a situation where we have to drive over our millipede. So I'm going to move back rather, and we can then film it from further back. Where is it gone now? Oh no, there's a little ridge here, so it's on the other side of our ridge. Now, where are you, millipede? Oh, there you are. We've given ourselves some space. I don't have to worry about going over our millipede, because ultimately, like I say, I don't want to kill our millipede. We don't want to squash them, although a number of millipedes will unfortunately end up being hit by cars, particularly on main roads. On the, outside of the reserve, they do cross the tar roads and unfortunately get hit there. But they're amazing little creatures, and I love watching them going about their business. Look at all those legs, and look how they move around. It's like wave after wave after wave as they kind of go and negotiate and use those antennae to figure out where they're going, as they kind of try and find softer soil areas with vegetation that they can then break down and start to feed. But I don't know what it is about us, but this millipede keeps coming towards us. Maybe it's because we're casting a shadow and it wants to get into a little bit more kind of a protected area. But how cool is that? Very cool to see. Now, I'm going to watch my millipede a little bit longer because I like millipedes, and watch what it gets up to and see where it goes. But while I do that, I believe Jamie, who is Tristan, who is Jamie again, according to Megan, has a bird of her own that she wants to show us.
Look at this absolutely beautiful creature. Although we've been looking for our cheetah all morning, we had to stop and show you this pied kingfisher that, as we speak, is hunting the little fishes and mollusks that are in the flowing water below it. And a moment earlier there was, the hammerkorp's still there. I can see the hammerkorp as well. And as you saw with Taylor, there it is. As you saw with Taylor, hammerkorps will hunt frogs, and kingfishers will hunt little frogs as well. But the funny thing about the whole name of the kingfisher is the fact that essentially only the hammerkorp and there's the pied kingfisher. What you'll see is when the pied kingfisher, or if the pied kingfisher actually spots something that it wants to catch, it does this hovering flight motion where it swims really, really fast and is able to almost stay in one place, not quite as successfully as a hummingbird, nor as rapid. But that's what it's doing, and then it will swoop down, grab a fish, and then beat it against a branch or against a rock or something, and then swallow it whole. Very striking little bird. Lots of woodlands kingfishers calling as well. I've noticed over the past about a week or so. I've heard them chirping away. Chirp, chirp. I imagine, Megs, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine they're going to be at Djuma soon. I don't think they've arrived yet, though. But perhaps I'm mistaken on that. It is... What month are we in? October still? Yes. So they're not here just yet. And of course, it's always a much contested matter as to when the woodlands kingfishers are going to arrive in South Africa and start their call. And when you first hear them and when you first see them, there's always a little bit of a bet going as to exactly which day it was. I cannot remember for the life of me which day it was last year. It's just one of those facts that doesn't stick in your mind. This kingfisher is completely still. Obviously a good fishing spot though. Where'd it go? I lost it. Oh, there it is. Well done, Jahawi. I love the little collar as well, of black around them.
Check to see if you would like to place your bet too. Some people have them already. Byron says the 18th of November through the 5th. We have the 10th. Could you maybe do yours?
Ah, all right. Now, Megan's opening up the opportunity to the Mara crew to try and figure out exactly when the woodlands kingfishers are going to return. Now, Megan, you said you chose the 10th. Did I hear that correctly? Because I was going to say the 10th. Okay, fine. I will say the 8th of November. That will be my guess as to when the woodlands kingfishers are going to return. They're definitely around here, although they're always around here. They're just a lot more vocal at the moment. Come on, kingfisher. Catch a fish. I love watching them at the coast as well. And they fish in the rock pools there. You can see the fierce concentration. Imagine trying to spot a fish or movement or a frog in the muddy water. It cannot be that easy to see, but of course bird's eyesight is exceptional. But it must be so tricky for that bird. And then to actually get the speed required to reach down and catch one. You can see its little crest blowing in the wind. So this could be a male or a Yes, no? Did you see something? No. This could be a game of patience that could go on for a good few minutes. Possibly even hours. Very peaceful scene though. The river flowing. Okay. I might sit here a little bit longer and just see if this kingfisher, I forgot its name for a second, if this kingfisher decides to catch a fish, land of his sunrise safari.
Well, I think Jamie's made a great decision there. They are wonderful birds to watch hunting, and hopefully it won't take long for that pied kingfisher to think about getting its next meal. I've also started thinking about getting my next meal, getting quite hungry. Wonder what's for breakfast today. We get delicious food in our camp, so whatever it is, I have complete faith that it will be very tasty. And while we make our way towards breakfast, of course, we will be searching for anything interesting along the way. It's the same road we actually came out on safari on, so we've driven this road this morning, but maybe there are some new developments since we were last here. Hello James, you'd like to know what would be my favorite option in terms of a meal? We have some BLT wraps, which are really good, bacon, lettuce, tomato wraps, which are delicious, so that's probably going to be the top of my breakfast choice. We don't really have lunch, we have like quite a kind of a late brunch at around 10:30. And then the other only official meal is dinner. And then in between, if you like a snack, you can obviously just go into the kitchen and make whatever you like. For dinners, must be the barbecue night, or as us South Africans say, a braai, where we have flame grilled meat. That's except for the few vegetarians in camp, of course, but they get looked after as well. So yeah, I mean, if I could have my way, it would be a BLT wrap this morning, Seb.
I know you had a lot of it, but like the quiche.
Yes, I love the quiche. They make a really good quiche. For some reason, some of our staff members don't like the quiche, which I don't understand. And I think it's possibly related to the fact that we got served it too often. So there was a period we were getting like this kind of breakfasty quiche every morning, or every second morning, and I think that maybe perturbed a few people. But the quiche is very nice. Yeah. Yeah, the curry is very good. We have Maasai sheep curry or Maasai goat, the local sheep or goats that the Maasai people raise in these parts. Another nice breakfast. I taught the chef how to make it once. I made it with him, but he hasn't made it since. And it'll be interesting to see how long it takes, or if he ever decides to make it. There's a Mediterranean dish called the shakshuka. Very tasty, and it's basically a way of poaching eggs in a kind of tomatoey gravy. So you just crack the eggs into little depressions that you make in the tomato and onion gravy or relish, and then you plonk that all in the oven and let it poach away or bake away. And it's quite a nice way of doing eggs if you're having a big breakfast party, because you don't have to fry each egg individually. You just crack them all in, pop it in the oven, and then you've got a delicious sloppy kind of tomatoey mixture. I like adding rosemary and oregano as my herbs of preference into that tomatoey gravy. Another wonderful thing that we get to snack on here is freshly harvested honey. The Maasai people love a bit of sweet honey and are incredibly brave / knowledgeable on how to extract the honey without even putting on one of those bee suits. So we get lots of tasty honey as well. Yesterday we had pancakes, and the honey worked incredibly well to smear on the pancakes. Well, seeing as I've told you what we can look forward to here in the Mara for breakfast, why don't you go and ask Tristan what he's possibly looking forward to. I'm told the chef down in Djuma is doing some incredible work at the moment.
Well, yes, we get spoilt. We get spoilt with all kinds of lovely breakfasts in this area, so Amanda always gives us the nicest things. Yesterday we had eggs and bacon and sausages and a kind of, I don't know, curried. Curried is the right way to put them? Beans? Like beans that are with a tomato curried sauce. They were quite good actually, and so we got spoiled yesterday. Today I'm not sure. I think today we might get our fruit breakfast. So normally we get in a week we get all kinds of different things, but we sometimes have yogurt and fruits and then like a cheese platter with cold meats and those kind of things. So I think that might be what we get this morning. I'm not 100% sure. It depends. It's warm enough for it. Generally Amanda tries to spoil us and look after us with different kind of breakfasts that suit the weather. So when it's cold we get nice hot breakfasts, and when it's a little bit cooler, a bit warmer, then we start to get our colder breakfasts. And I was actually just thinking, now that Scott was talking about honey and all kinds of things, that Kirst and James are both coming back, and the two of them love yogurt and honey, and so we're going to have to stock up on yogurt and honey for the two of them so that they can at least be able to have their delights and their treats. I think between the two of them they probably eat about 6 bowls of yogurt and honey a day, so they eat quite a bit of it. I'm sure James is looking forward to getting back to South Africa and having some of his little South African treats. Although he is in South Africa already, he's probably loving the fact that he's eating all kinds of different types of yogurts and things down at the coast, and I hope he's having a wonderful leave, both him and Kirst at the moment, and looking forward to the two of them getting back this side and chatting to them about their experiences in the Mara, and then, well, obviously just working with the two of them. It's always a pleasure to work with both of them. They're both delightful individuals, and so it'll be nice to kind of spend time with them again. And like I say, James is always a source of entertainment and laughs, as well as the fact that he's incredibly knowledgeable about a lot of the smaller things out here. So he's a great guy to have around, and really am looking forward to having him back this side with us. It's going to be great to kind of work with him again. And then of course, like I say, Steph is back, and so the team at Djuma is going to grow exponentially as we start heading towards December. By the time we hit December, we're going to be quite a big crew back this side again, and it's going to be exciting times ahead, and hopefully lots of interesting things. Now, we've got actually some impala and some nyala that are here, and what's really nice is that there's a female nyala on the right hand side under the marula tree standing right next to an impala, and it gives you an idea of just the differences between the two of them, because there you can see the nyala, who's quite stripy, and there you can see the difference between the impala, which is in front. So the impala has got those more horizontal lines and the markings with no white stripes coming down the body and no white dots. Now, where are you off to? Are you coming to have a look at us, male impala? I feel like there's a female that's gotten loose of the gang, and this male is now going to try and hoard them all together. You can also see there's a big male nyala in amongst them as well, and it almost looks a bit Mara-like with the kind of grass and antelopes just feeding as they go. Right, well, we're going to head for that breakfast. We'll have to see what kind of breakfast we're getting. We'll obviously see you guys in the afternoon, but let's go back to Jamie and see what she's up to and where she's heading now.
We haven't found Imani this morning, but then again, we didn't find her yesterday morning until after the sunrise safari. So stay tuned to our action broadcast. You never know. We might find her. We might go live when she's doing something exciting or interesting or something that we've never seen before. Maybe she'll even catch a rock for us again. You never know, but definitely stay tuned, because I think the plan will be to stay out all day. Have some lunch. Everybody's talking about breakfast. I'm not sure what we've got for breakfast. We've got tea. Heidi, you say, what a beautiful day in the Masai Mara. It is a beautiful, beautiful day. And I think after the last few somewhat gloomy, rumbly, tempestuous days, it's really nice to have a bit of a calm, sunny. The wind is drying up all the mud, and the wind and the sun is drying up all the mud. So I'm thrilled about that, because it means I can actually do things quite easily. It's been so lovely this morning to get around. Speaking of getting around, of course, we haven't searched for the 5 musketeers, but Brent is going to finish off your sunrise safari. Perhaps he can tell you if he's heard anything about them.
Well, yes, we have meandered into Musketeer territory now. We're not too far away from where Jamie is, and I just got an update on where they might be. It seems like they've headed further to the east towards Sekanani Gate, and there are lots of wildebeest heading towards that area, and I think maybe on our way back towards the Sand River, we might have a perusal there, see if we can find those 5 boys. As Jamie said, it is an absolutely gorgeous day here in the Mara, and of course a lot of us are going to be out and about for most of the day, seeing what wonders we can find. Now, I haven't had any luck with the female cheetah, Miale. Now I remembered her name, but I will definitely be looking for her again throughout the day, as well as the musketeers. As I said, I'm focusing on cheetah. Malika, we might go back to her this evening. She might hunt. I think they're still going to be a bit full. I think tomorrow morning will be a good time to be with Malika again. And well, we never know. While we're out here, we might bump into anything, possibly. I'm always hoping for the wild dogs. There's a pack of 2 that appears from time to time in this area. So hopefully we'll be lucky enough to spot those wild dogs at some point. But as it is just absolutely gorgeous out here, and it's going to be a fun day out. Remember to keep a lookout on or whatever platform you watch Safari Live on for those go live notifications, because we can literally go live at any moment. And especially with cheetah, we're going to be spending days out, and a lot of the cheetah here tend to hunt in the middle of the day, especially today. Even though it's bright and sunny, it is still quite cool. So there is a chance that we might get some hunts during the day. And I'm always hoping for another spotted cap, but we're going to have to wait and see. It's been wonderful having you all with us on this gorgeous morning, both in Djuma and in the Masai Mara. And from all of us at Safari Live, including Tristan, myself, Jamie, Scott, and all the cameramen, adieu, bon nuit, au revoir.